Hi everyone, Redneck Computer Geek here. So if you're new to this channel, basically about 6 months or so ago, I ended up in a really nasty divorce, and I ended up having to, well, find a different place to live. And instead of renting an apartment because I couldn't afford it, I built an entire off-grid cabin on a piece of land that I'm leasing, including full kitchen, everything. It's 2 stories tall. The cabin itself is 12 foot by 12 foot by 12 foot. It has an entire upstairs area, as you can see up above me, along with a full height pitched roof. And I built it entirely using the tools that we're going to talk about in this video. If you clicked on my thumbnail, that's exactly what we're going to talk about, is the SKIL tool set that has the drill, the saw, the reciprocating saw, and the light. And just a little rundown on what I think about each one and a couple of words of advice I'd give. I literally built this entire cabin off-grid, doing nothing but charging these from a power inverter in my truck. That being said, let's talk about the charger first. So if we've got one of these batteries here, now we're dealing with the Power Pro 20 series. This is not the series that has the charge port for USB in it. This is just the regular standard series. Had I thought a little bit ahead, I probably would have ordered one of the batteries that had the USB charging port in it, just because that's really handy for a lot of stuff. There's so many things that run off of USB at this point that just being able to quick charge one of these and run something would have been nice. Now, part of the reason why it is they're called 20s is because their sales gimmick is supposedly these things charge in 20 minutes. Now, when I first got it, yes, it did charge in about 20 minutes, although I'm going to have to go and call that as being a BS statement. Unfortunately, the more that I have used these and the more brutally that I have used these, the more I have noticed that these batteries do not charge in 20 minutes. They take closer to about half an hour, sometimes a little bit longer. Did the sales pitch 20 minutes actually work when I first got these? Yes. Does it now, after 6 months of abusively using them off-grid on a daily basis when needed? No. So, since we have this first in our hands, let's take a look at this drill. The SKIL series that came with this, with the adjustable variable. The first thing I'll point out is I have large hands. I'm 6'1". I have what they refer to as piano finger hands, computer tech hands, whatever you call it. This thing is extremely comfortable. If you are used to dealing with some of the smaller drills and stuff like that, most of the time right here ends up hitting on your pinky. This actually has a good bit of space. You can see I've got almost my thumb fitting there perfectly fine. And it works out nice. The LED that lights up is down in here. What's interesting about the LED on this, another off-grid thing, is that it actually works without ever triggering this. All you have to do is just tap it just enough without ever actually setting this off. When you hear that little click, the LED turns on, which is nice. I use it as a flashlight running around all the time. I actually use the drill as a flashlight more than I use the actual floodlight, and I'll explain that in a sec too. It's strong, it's solid. The setting on top for first and second, second, definitely a noticeable difference in strength when you're in first. Like most of these cordless drills, when you're using it in second a lot, you usually can switch it into first when the battery is dying. It's not like the old battery pack systems where the lead acid batteries, you used to be able to drive like another good solid 20 or 30 screws after you switched it into first. With this, probably about 8, maybe 10 decent 3-inch screws. Once the battery starts to go in this thing, it goes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You'll end up with one screw you drive in second, you'll switch it into first, and you'll try to do 3, 4 more decent screws, but the moment you hit a knot, you're done. I like it. It works really well. A battery charge, if you're putting up, let's see, let's find an example here. When I was putting up siding on this place, a fully charged battery ended up putting probably about 8 sheets worth of plywood up on the outside of this place, putting screws every 12 inches. Moving on to the next one, since we mentioned it already, we've got the light that came with this. Now, the light that comes with this is just plain insanity bright. There we are. Now that we've traumatized you. As you noticed, it has 2 settings. There's 1, there's 2. To be honest, I have no idea why they added the second setting, because it is absolutely traumatizingly bright and practically worthless. The other irony is that I've tried running it in both the traumatizingly bright and the less than traumatizingly bright, and it really doesn't seem to affect the battery life all that much. It seems to basically have about 2.5 hours or so worth of battery time when you're running it on the floodlight. Running it in the less than traumatizingly bright seems to give it about 3 hours. Yet again, it's lithium. The moment it decides it is done, you get probably about a 5-minute warning worth of slightly what in the world is it doing light, and then it just plain shuts off. The other thing about this is it has probably one of the most interestingly mounted sets of magnets that's out there, and it will pick on to just about anything. As we can see, I've got a keychain here, and this is the reason why this thing is so irritating to me, is because anytime it goes near my right pocket, my keys become inundatedly attached to it. They end up coming out of my pocket, getting thrown around, and just irritating. But as far as being able to clamp it on the underside of a vehicle, or being able to stick it up in your hood when you need to, it works great for that. So, we're going to move on to my favorite tool in the set, and probably the most versatile, kind of, is the reciprocating saw. Now, it has a irritating lock feature up here, a snap sideways lock feature that constantly gets in the way. I'm constantly bumping it accidentally, going to use it, and it doesn't do anything, having to go, "Arr!" and then hit this, and it works. But I understand safety, I understand that it needs to be there. It's just irritating. Yet again, piano finger hands, large hands, 6'1", full finger width underneath. So when you're wearing gloves and you're using this to cut up some emergency firewood in order to put into your off-grid stove, it works really well. That's what I've been using it consistently for in about 10-degree weather for 2 weeks now. I love it. The other thing that I will tell you that I've said on this YouTube channel for years is cheap tool, good quality bits. Always. I run cheap grinders. I run cheap welders. I run cheap drills. Always buy the best quality bits or the best quality blades or the best quality welding wire, and you run into a lot less issue. I run the Demo Demons from Diablo. I'll make sure to post a link down below. These things are amazing. Absolutely, totally endorse this product. I bought these myself. This is me, not a sponsor. While we're on that, the other thing that I really totally endorse buying are these Milwaukee little kits. They're about 25 bucks, and they come with the standard set of bits and stuff. The black series, the black tips with the red shafts. Absolutely worth it. Totally worth getting. And this particular series here, absolutely totally love them. So, while we're on it, we've got the circular saw. This is the last item. Now, as you notice, it's still got the original blade. I actually really like the blade that it came with. I've been cutting up firewood with it. I've been cutting down saplings with it. I've been cutting up all of the sheeting that is on this 12x12 cabin. I've cut up 1/2-inch plywood. I've cut up 2x4s. I've cut up 2x6s with it. I have scun plywood down into 1-foot wide strips in order to put around the base of things. I love this saw. It's been absolutely a joy to use. The guides on it are very nice. It kicks over nicely. As you can see, it's got an LED in it. The LED that's in this is way less bright than the drill LED, but it still works great. Now, the other thing that I'll show is that it has a ambidextrous safety. So for you lefties out there, or the people that are like me that are ambidextrous, it works great in both hands. And as you can hear, the stop works great. One of those safety hazard people things that I think is funny is that they have it far enough away that you cannot bridge your thumb over to hold the guard. Somebody must have figured out in all the OSHA violations that that's what all of us were doing. It is what it is. So you have to go and actually hold it up with the other hand when it's getting in the way. The other thing I've noticed with this is that the kickback guard is really, really strong on its spring, and it will cause the saw to bind quite often when you're cutting thinner wood. When I go to start it on plywood, I find very often I have to hold it up and I have to actually get it into that edge before I can let go of the guard and continue the rest of the cut. It binds on me quite often on smaller stuff, so keep that in mind. It is also very heavy in comparison. I would bet that all three of the other items combined do not weigh the weight of this thing. It is definitely 2 to 3 times heavier than the reciprocating saw without a question, and feels it without any issue. The one gripe that I do have on this is that the blade drop is in a location where inevitably you always hit it on everything, and it's really loose. It takes almost nothing for it. I constantly end up catching it when I'm carrying it and just drop, all you got to do is just happen to go and nick it on a piece of clothing or anything, and it's just barely above the base. So if you go to set this down next to something, it's very easy to catch it on something, but it is what it is. If it was really that much of a problem, I could probably cinch it up with more of a screw or something in there, or put some sort of cap in it so that it can't move. Also, one thing the directions seem to apparently not tell you very well is that the Allen for it is actually hidden right here. In order to be able to swap the blade, it takes a little doing in order to figure out where that is in the directions. So cutting with this saw, I was able to cut down pieces of plywood and everything, 1/2-inch pieces, do a bunch of 2x4s. It ended up going through, I think it was 3 battery recharges in order to be able to cut enough of the plywood and stuff to do the entire sheathing on the outside of this place. So that's not too bad. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out while we were here is that the quick release on the reciprocating saw works really, really well. You have to pay attention because you can actually bump it to the side when you're doing stuff. And as you can see, it really does quick release. When you go to press it in, it does kind of a double click, which is all well and good and great, and I like it. So I know this video has been a little bit long, but I wanted to cover everything as a real tool user. If you see any other reviews that are on this channel, I openly state whether all of the reviews are done having actively used that tool or whether I am unboxing that tool and just giving my first thoughts. Please feel free to go through, check out the rest of the channel. Who knows, maybe you'll find some other reason to go and be here other than today. Have a good day. Redneck Computer Geek signing out.